Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome to this, the WP Builds podcast. We've managed to reach episode 152 now, and it's entitled Riding a Jolly Long Way for the WordPress Community with Dan Maby and Carole Olinger. It was published on Thursday the 31st of October 2019, which is Halloween. My name's Nathan Wrigley from pictureandword.co.uk, a small web development agency based in the north of England, and because it's an interview I shan't be having my chat with David Wormsley today. Never fear though, he shall be back probably next week. Just a couple of things to talk about before we get stuck into the interview. Perhaps the most important of them this time around is wpbuilds.com/black. That's going to be a Black Friday page full of all the links. I'm curating them all so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you've missed something. I'm going to try and put absolutely everything that I come across up there. It's going to be filterable and searchable. You can use those options already. So, for example, if you want to know which ones are at 30% or which ones are in the hosting category and so on, it's all on that page. I'll be updating it as and when things come in. But quite a surprise to me doing this is that Halloween is a real thing for WP products and services. There's absolutely loads of stuff. So go and check that out right now, actually, because it feels to me like Black Friday's got a bit of a rival. So that's wpbuilds.com/black. Go check that out. It will be constantly updated. So yeah, I would recommend that you get yourself to that page and bookmark it. The other thing to say is wpbuilds.com/subscribe. If you go to that page, there's two forms at the top. The grey one is just going to let you know when we've got podcast and the Monday news updates coming out, but the blue one in the run up to Black Friday might be a good form to fill out, because if you fill that out, I'm just going to send you a very quick plain text email as soon as I hear about a product or deal. And so yeah, that's going to be really helpful. You can just tell from the title whether or not it's going to be of interest to you, or just throw it in the recycle bin. On that page, you can also subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player. Join our Facebook group of over 2,300 WordPressers. It's very friendly. I have to say it's possibly the most friendly Facebook group I've been in. It's absolutely wonderful, so get yourself in there as well. Another page to mention would be wpbuilds.com/deals. That's our regular deals page. Go check that out, because there might be something on there as well. And wpbuilds.com/advertise if you would like to advertise your product or service on the WP Builds podcast and get it in front of a WordPress specific audience, a bit like these guys did. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by WP Feedback. Are client communications eating up all of your time? If so, check out WP Feedback. It's a visual feedback tool for WordPress that it's specifically designed to get you and your clients on the same page. And you can check that out at wpfeedback.co. And by Cloudways. Cloudways is a managed, cloud-based hosting platform for WordPress. Unlike others, they let you choose the servers from top cloud providers like Google Cloud, Amazon and DigitalOcean. And there are no restrictions on the number of websites per server. Try Cloudways using promo code WPBuilds and get $20 free hosting credit. And the Page Builder Framework. Do you use a page builder to create your websites? The Page Builder Framework is a mobile responsive and lightning fast WordPress theme that works with Beaver Builder, Elementor, Breezy and other page builders. With its endless customization options in the WordPress customizer, it's the perfect fit for you or your agency. Go to wp-pagebuilderframework.com today. Just a quick shout out to Paul Lacey. Paul Lacey, I don't know if you listen to the WP Builds news, but we put out the news first thing in the morning on a Monday, and then we do a live version with various people in the Facebook group and the YouTube channel, and we go through the news. This week I was away from my office, and so Paul Lacey took the reins, and I'm very grateful to him and would like to express my gratitude. And thanks to the guests who came on this week as well and coped with the sort of slight variance from the normal routine. Okay, let's get stuck into today's podcast. This is really interesting for me because not only am I the guest, I am the interviewer because I'm actually in it, which is really strange. It's all about WP and Up's Head 2 project. It's a 3,000 kilometre, which is nearly 2,000 mile bike ride from Berlin to Portugal, taking place next year. Myself, Dan Maby, and Carole Olinger are going to be sweating it out on bikes over a 30-day period of time next year. And in this podcast, you're going to find out why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and how we're getting along with the plans and preparations that we're making. To be perfectly honest, the whole thing is just full of interest. It's got me really intrigued and scared by the same measure. So yeah, go and check it out. And I hope that at the end of it, you feel able perhaps to support the Head 2 project in some way. Hello there. Welcome to the WP Builds podcast. We've got an interview for you today. Thanks for sticking around. Today, I'm joined by two people who, over the last, in one case, in Dan Maby's case, I've got to know him very well over the last probably couple of years. In Carole Olinger's case, I've probably got to know her quite well over the last couple of months. And the reason for that is because we have, in a moment of madness, we have decided to do a bike ride. Now, I've mentioned this and alluded to this a couple of times, and we'll get stuck into that. But before that, I'm just going to say hi, Dan.
Nathan, hello.
And hi, Carole.
Hi, Nathan. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Let's do the history of this, shall we? A couple of months ago, well, it's probably more than a couple of months ago now, Dan hatched this plan to cycle where, Dan?
So the plan is to cycle from Berlin in Germany, the 2019 WordCamp Europe venue, the Estrel, right the way across down to to Porto in Portugal, the 2020 venue for WordCamp Europe, which is a total of 3,000 kilometers. And actually, our route's a little over 3,000 kilometers.
Let's do that in miles as well. What is that in miles, roughly speaking?
It's a little under 2,000 miles.
Okay, if you go to, now let's get this right, if you go to head2.org/route, and I'm guessing that's spelt in the sense of ROUTE, not ROOT, then you will find the route. And if you're anything like me, you'll probably just look at it and you think, it's a map, it's a map. Look, there's a little line on it. Isn't it fun? But then when you actually start to sort of zoom out a little bit, you notice that entire countries are encompassed in this map. Why? Why are we doing it, Carole? What on earth is it all about?
You never sold it to me as like madness, so this is. I'm starting to get worried here. Of course, we're doing that because we are an amazing part of the WP and Up team, and we want to raise awareness for mental and in this case also physical health, because in the end there's nothing more important than your health, right? And so we have been working on this route for quite a long time. It's not so easy because we tried to avoid the very, very evil hikes and like the Tour de France. I mean, we are quite fit, but
are we?
We're not like the Tour de France. Right? There was a little irony in here. But actually, when I'm at the moment, I am looking right at the route, and I see that we are nicely dividing France in two. So we're really gonna divide France in two parts and really see a lot of it.
Yeah. So this idea didn't come in sort of splendid isolation, did it? If we were to cast our mind back, I spoke about this quite a lot in the WordPress news that I do. There was a chap called Marcel Bootsman. Have I got his surname right? Because it's spelt Boot, Boot, in the English pronunciation, but I think it's Boatsman. Have I got that right?
It's Bootsman.
Bootsman. Okay, so yeah, brilliant.
If I'm not mistaken here.
Yeah. Well, he decided that he was going to walk from his hometown to the Estrel Hotel in Berlin. And so I suppose, did that set the groundwork? Is that what got you thinking about this, Dan?
It did, yes. Yeah, I had a conversation with Marcel at WordCamp Europe and spoke obviously about his epic journey, which was just incredible. He covered 718 kilometers walking from his hometown to the venue, and just we recognise there's a need. So WP Up is a non-profit. It's a registered charity, and we need to be able to raise funds. We need to be able to sustain the charity. So we need to look for ways to do that. We need to look for unique and unusual and interesting ways to create exposure of both our message and, of course, be able to try and raise some funds. So we had a brainstorming session at WordCamp Europe as a team. And this concept of traveling from one WordCamp to another came to light, and we looked at it. We looked at the distance, and obviously it was at the time it was very roughly, it was about 3,000 kilometers, and we thought, yes, we can do this. How can we do this? Well, let's jump on a bike,
on an aeroplane.
Yes. So yeah, it was born out of that, and it's not there's no kind of element of competition or one-upmanship or anything like that here. It's a case of we were inspired by what Marcel had done for Donate WC, and we actually had a conversation with him prior to announcing the Head 2 project, because we wanted to make sure that this wasn't in competition or it wasn't conflicting with any other plans or projects that he had coming up for next year as well. And he was very, very supportive. There's also been some discussion around him potentially joining us on the route as well at some point.
So the route has been devised on a whole load of cycling-related apps. This is a whole world, new world to me. I didn't realise things like this existed. As far as I was concerned, there was Google Maps and Apple Maps, and that was about it. But it turns out there's a whole kind of like sea of different apps that we've been exploring, and we've kind of ended up using two. We've ended up using something called Ride. Is it Ride With or Ride For GPS?
Ride with
GPS. And there's another one called Komoot. Mm-hmm. And what you do is you put your starting point in and you put your ending destination in. Okay, that's all good so far. And then it spits out a route and it tells you how long it is and so on and so forth. But that isn't really where that journey ended, because I've done very little on this. Carole has done the vast majority of work on this. Carole's had to spend a long time tweaking that route. What have been the criteria to make the route suitable for what we're doing, Carole?
So actually, what I've been doing is, of course, checking on the pathways that Komoot was suggesting, which was already pretty cool. But there was still a way to improve that, because we found out that there is a bike journey which starts actually from Norway and goes all across Western Europe to Santiago de Compostela in Spain, and they call it like the pilgrim route. And this route is like specifically designed. I mean, the route is not designed for cyclists, but the suggested route inside this Eurovelo 3 track is really like the best that you can actually do on a bike, because it's not going to be like super hard differences in height, and it's going to pass along more cycling paths. So what we try to do is first adapt like a majority to this Eurovelo 3 track starting from France to Santiago de Compostela, which will obviously also include the amazing Camino Frances, which goes from the French border to Spain to Santiago de Compostela. And this is like the most famous pilgrim route on the world, if I'm not mistaken here. So I think a lot of people have already heard about that. And I always wanted to do that by walking, and I never took the opportunity to do so. So now I'm going to do that by bike. And I'm really, really looking forward to that, because I think it's also going to be like some spiritual experience. So that was one part of the criteria. And the other part, obviously, because we are doing this inside the WordPress community and for the WordPress community, is like checking where are there like communities near the route, on the route, where we could actually during our journey get in touch, maybe participate at a meetup, and of course getting more riders, cyclists from the community involved. So if there's a local meetup somewhere and if we're going to pass nearby, chances are higher that more WordPress enthusiasts are living there in the area and want to join us, like for a smaller part of the trip, like for one day or maybe for 3 days. So we will give you the opportunity to do so.
That's really nice. So let's ask everybody temporarily just to pause the podcast and get yourself near a device. Go to headto.org/route, ROUTE, then come back and press play again, and that way you'll have a real insight into what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. So Carole or Dan, it doesn't really matter who, where are the changes that you made to try to get us in touch with the community as we ride past? Can you, on the map, are you able to sort of point roughly, obviously not with your mouse, but can you give us the names of the locations of places where you've diverted the route so that we have a maximum chance of coinciding with other WordPress communities?
I think the major change that we did, the original route wasn't going through the Netherlands. So, and we absolutely needed to be able to get in touch with the Dutch community, which is one of my favorites. And so we made the route go through Nijmegen and through Eindhoven, and then we are gonna pass the Belgian border. We're gonna go through Antwerpen to Brussels, and so I think this was like the major changes in the beginning of the route, so that we would be able to include the Netherlands as the sixth country on the route. And through France, we made some minor changes to pass directly through the center of Paris, which is probably going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
And the good news is there are lots of cycling paths. So I was very positively surprised because I wasn't expecting that. And we're going to pass through Bordeaux. And and then we were trying to find a possibility to remove the very hilly parts in the southern France going to Spain. So yeah, a tiny little part has been deleted from our route, but there is no way of making that a flat trip.
Yeah, we need somebody to basically quickly whip up a tunnel going through the Pyrenees. Yeah. That would be nice.
Can we make a call?
Yeah.
Can we make a call to action for that? So there's still some months left. Yeah. Can you do that?
Still not enough time. So essentially the route. Hopefully, some of the places that Carole has mentioned, you know, if you're listening from any parts of the world near there, maybe Dan, you could take this one. How do people express an interest? Let's say that they're interested in joining us for a short period of time on a bicycle. How do they do that?
Sure. So if they want to, if anybody's interested in joining us through the ride, we're setting up multiple ways that individuals can get involved. For now, we're asking people to register their interest in joining us. So if they go to or head to headto.org/go, that'll redirect to the page where people can register their interests, register their details, and then we'll be in touch as we progress this to discuss obviously what their expectations, their abilities. And work with them to see how they can be part of this project, because we really want to make sure that this encompasses and includes as many members of the community as we possibly can, and get many people involved. I mean, to put this into some form of context, if you look, we mentioned already the Tour de France, and we kind of banded that around a bit. And I mean, the Tour de France is a 3,500 kilometer ride over 21 days, I believe it is. That we're doing at the moment, it's 3,200 kilometers. We've given ourselves 30 days, but actually 5 of those days are rest days. So we're going to be on the bikes for 25 days to accomplish this 3,200 kilometer ride. So it's a big undertaking. It's a big. It's not a case of we can just simply jump on our bikes and off we go. Now, I'm certainly not a professional cyclist. I'm certainly not any kind of athlete. I hadn't even been on a bike for 20 plus years up until about 3 months ago. But what we're trying to do through this project is really demonstrate that a lot of small changes can positively impact us and positively impact our physical health, which obviously has a direct impact on our mental health. So as people look to join and register to be part of this project, we're asking that people want to get involved if they're happy to share their journey as well and share their experiences and be able to share that whole process from registering as a potential rider right through to taking part and getting on the road with us. Because there's going to be a number of challenges that we have to face as we go through this project as a collective. So it's really quite important that we can we're prepared to be open and honest about these things as we go through them.
I'm going to be open and honest. I'm terrified. It is quite a thing, though, isn't it? You know, when you look at it on the map, the interesting thing was when we put it into the Komoot app. It very handily, Carole's been working on sort of dividing our 3,000 kilometre route up into 25 more or less equal bits. And it's the realisation that I think for me of the length of each of those equal bits, when you suddenly see the raw number of, in my case, miles. Miles means something to me. Kilometres I can't really get a hold of just because of what we use in the UK. But when you actually see the number of miles that we'll need to do each day, it is... We are taking on something the like of which I've never done. I'm not. I wouldn't even say I'm modestly fit. You know, when this whole process began, I would say I was suffering from middle-age spread, too much time sitting in the chair, not enough attention on my diet, not enough attention on my physical activity. And although I am nowhere near the point of being able to start and finish that route, since we decided to do this over, I don't know, what was it, 3 months ago, we committed, I think, something like that. I have made quite a few changes. It's been an up and down experience. You know, I haven't been able to sustain my approach to taking exercise in the way that I'd hoped because normal life got in the way. But I've made changes. I've lost weight. I've adapted my diet. I'm getting more exercise than I ever had. What about you two?
Well, this is, as I mentioned, it's about these little changes and trying to, because obviously we all have our daily responsibilities still. We all have work to do. We all have family. There are many things that we have to maintain. And really what we want to try and do here is demonstrate that actually making these small changes throughout our daily routines without having too much of a big impact from a time perspective really can make a change. And I mean, for me, similar to yourself, I've been doing a lot of small changes and in relation to my diet, in relation to my exercise, and I've been seeing some positive impacts. Unfortunately, I've got a back injury at the moment. I've actually got a fractured vertebrae, which is preventing me from getting on the bike at this stage. But it is prior to that, there was definitely seeing massive changes, massive improvements from making relatively small changes.
You've been a keen cyclist for a while, though, haven't you, Carole? Is this something the like of which you feel ready to tackle tomorrow, or are you going to have to really step it up like me and Dan will at some point as well?
I don't feel ready at all. Yeah, actually, I started cycling only this summer. So like Dan, I haven't been on a bike like 20 years. In 20 years. And I just got back on the bike because I had an injury on my knee, which would not allow me to run. So I started running earlier this year. So the interesting part, I don't believe in coincidences, is that I had this desire and this deep need inside of me to change something and to adapt and to go for a more healthy lifestyle already quite early this year. I started to make these adaptations. I started to become more active. I had a trip to Iceland, which was a hiking trip, which was amazing, where I discovered what my body was able to do and also what my body was not able to do and what I wanted to improve. So this already started way earlier for me this year. And then when I heard about the amazing Head to WCO project, that was like, oh my God, I have to get involved into this because this just comes at the exact right moment for me. So at the moment, I went even further. So sometimes I'm a bit like 100% or 0%. So I tend to, when I do change some things in my life, I tend to really get very focused onto that and to do more and more. So at the moment, I changed my diet into ketogenic diet. So I'm on ketosis, and I feel great. I am losing weight, and I am having so much energy. Like I don't remember when I had so much energy before. So this is amazing and works perfect for me. And of course, I am doing a lot of bike training. So I am going to complete this challenge on my e-bike. I am not as mad as you two.
What's an e-bike? Because I didn't know what that was.
So an e-bike is actually a bike that has an engine as an assistance. So it has a battery and an engine that will actually multiply the power that you will put into your bike by just pedaling, and multiply this effort. So depending on how much you are gonna allow the engine to assist you. So, but this stops at 25 kilometers per hour. So it's not like you could speed on with the e-bike and having like end up in the speed that you would have with a motorcycle. So that's not the case. So it stops at 25. And you have to be a bit careful on how you use it, because the battery, of course, is not unlimited. So if you want to give it a lot of assistance, you're not going to be able to do more than 20 or 30 kilometers per charge. And I really love that, because we are living in a very, very hilly area here. And when I got told that I had to stop running for a while because of my knee injury, I was really desperate, because I noticed all the positive effects that the physical exercise I started to do had on my mental health. And when I got told, no, it's over for a while, I was scared like to fall into the next depressive episode, because I felt like I was losing all my balance and my inner balance, of course. And then the physiotherapist told me, like, he said to me, like, hey, you could do biking because it's going to be excellent for your knee. And I was like, I can't do that. Where I live, there's absolutely no way where I can do that, because it would take me like 6 months of preparation to get on a bike and ride for 30 minutes, because it's so super hilly. And then I discovered the e-bike. So just like you, Nathan, I didn't actually know what it is like 1 year before, and I completely fell in love with it. So some people might say this is cheating or whatsoever, but the thing is, if I wouldn't have discovered the e-bike, I wouldn't be on a bike at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I would have done nothing during my injury, and I also wouldn't have been interested in the project, because biking for me was always like, bleh, no, not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Just to put this into perspective, we'll talk more in a minute about the sort of way that we're actually planning to do it and how we're actually going about it. But I'll just give you some little tiny window into what we've done so far. So as a team, WP and Op, we've Dan and I certainly have started to use a mobile phone app, which is called MyFitnessPal. Now, I'm not recommending this over anything else. It's just the one that we chose to use. And it enables you to sort of scan the barcode of food that you're consuming if it comes in a packet. If it doesn't come in a packet, you can use their search, and 99 times out of 100, you'll find something relatively quickly. And analysing the food that we're consuming. Now, in my case, this has proved to be a real revelation, this tiny little change. And it gives you data about the sort of the types of food that you should be eating and whether you're getting enough protein or carbohydrates. Turns out that on balance, my diet was okay. I was just eating far too much of everything and snacking fairly frequently. And so just this minor little change, and it is a bit inconvenient, and I fell out of favour with it a couple of weeks ago, and now we're best friends again. I started again this week. Just by scanning the food, and and it tells you how many calories it all equals, I've suddenly reduced portion size. And as a result, over a 6-week period, I've lost, well, probably won't mean a lot to everybody, but I've lost a stone, which is 14 pounds, simply by just observing what I'm eating with this app. So that's been incredible. And I know Dan's been doing that as well. Have you found the same thing? Has it helped?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's actually a lot of evidence to point towards just simply calorie counting will help you reduce weight.
Yeah.
Just by the simple fact that you are actually watching your calories. Even if you think you're making very little difference in terms of your diet, there's you're creating some accountability, aren't you, around the food and the food that you're intaking.
Well, in our case, it's real accountability as well, because we this data is available to each of us about what the others are eating.
Yes.
We have got a colleague, Paul Smart, who we've been meeting up with, who hopefully going forwards will be continuing to offer us advice and guidance about the right kind of things that we should be eating, and physical exercise as well. But it's amazing. And the thing that had never occurred, well, not never occurred to me, but I'd never done anything about it, was it was just like, oh, goodness me, that food that I thought was, wow, there's a lot of calories in that. Just things like when I have a bowl of cereal in the morning, I now actually weigh how much milk goes on. Whereas before it was just, chuck it on until such times as you think that's enough. Now I make sure I go for about 130 grams of milk and carefully weigh it out. And all these little things multiplied over the whole day, and all of the consumption that you make in terms of food has made a real difference. Now, we're not losing weight for the sake of losing weight. We're losing weight so that we have less baggage to cart around, aren't we? Because if I can get down to my target weight, that's a lot of stuff that I don't have to cart around for 3,000 kilometres.
We've got 2,150 meters uphill.
Yeah.
We want to be carrying as little weight as possible up those mountains.
Is that that's the maximum height we ever reach? Is it?
We will be going up a total of 21,500 meters.
That sounds more like it. I was going to say, so 21,000. Oh boy, it sounds like we sound like we're talking about NASA now. It's putting things into low Earth orbit. Yeah. So there's that. There's the sort of the side of eating, and I don't know, Carole, if you've got anything to add on that. Maybe you've always been good with your eating, but have you modified it recently?
Yes. So with the ketogenic diet, it's a total change of what I used to eat. So I always had troubles like keeping my weight in order. So I'm suffering from a chronic disease which is called lipedema, which is which changes the fat cells and the fat tissue, and it almost exclusively affects women. And so it makes like your fat tissue increase completely out of your control. So that's one thing that I always ended up with more weight than I wanted to have. But the more important side of this is that I didn't know about this for 2 decades. So then I always tried to fight my body, and I ended up having several eating disorders. So this is always something I have to keep in mind when I'm adapting my diet, because this is not something like the eating disorder is not something that is going to be cured at some point. Like it's part of me, and at some point it's going to be sleeping, and at some point it's maybe going to try to come back, and I have to be very aware of what I'm doing. So the recent changes is that I always wanted to try what the ketogenic diet could do for me, because it seems to have like positive impacts also on my lipedema disease. So after the last surgery, lipedema surgery I had 3 weeks ago, I felt super motivated to give it a try, like because I was motivated on like fighting against the disease, and also doing something that could increase my energy level, make me lose more weight for the Head 2 project. And so this is actually the first time that I am actually tracking everything I eat. And I do that not because of the calories. So I mean, it's very, very important if you want to lose weight to know if you are in a deficit, in a caloric deficit or not. I mean, obviously, but for me, it's very important that the macros are aligned to keep me in ketosis. So I have to make sure that at the end of the day, I will have eaten like 70 to 75% of fat, and then less than 5% of how do you say carbs in English?
Yeah.
Carbs, and the rest is proteins. And so at the moment I'm tracking everything because I need to readapt, and I need to get the feeling for what I eat, and if it's right for ketosis or not. But it's just like you said, Nathan, when you start tracking, and you really get surprised and amazed about things that you thought that they would have not so much calories, and then you find out like, oh my God, have I been eating that all the time? And for me, what is interesting is, as I am eating so much fat obviously is very high in calories. So I ended up with relatively small plates in the beginning. And my mind wasn't able to process that. Like, oh my God, I mean, I know this is so much fat, but it looks so tiny. How can I not be like super hungry after 1 hour? And then my head needed like 1 week to adapt so that I was able to feel into my body again, and to actually find out if I am hungry or not hungry, independent of what my head thinks I am. And that's a very positive side effect. Like I really feel, so besides of all the energy I have, I really feel like I'm connecting to my body again in a different way, because this is a change. This is a change in metabolism, and it's new, and everything that is new helps me to reconnect with my body in a healthy way.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like I said, just the inspection of it, the diet that I was eating has made a significant difference. But it's not just the diet side of things. We've also, we're going to be on bikes. It's a very long time. We've got to take a lot of time out over the next few months in order to get our fitness levels up. So I'll just run through what I'm doing. Currently, I have an exercise bike, which, if you've watched any of the live news or the webinars, has sort of been loitering in the background. And I'm trying to get on that and achieve a certain amount of miles every few days. That obviously is going to step up. What's amazing to me is how long it does take to do the number of miles. And when we go out on the days, we're going to be on the bikes, assuming we can keep the speed up at a steady rate, well, 8, 9, possibly more hours a day, just cycling. And so trying to get my head around how I'm going to practice that much is interesting. But also, I've been going out on my bike. I have a really wonky old bike. I've got an old mountain bike that I got off eBay or something several years ago. And I also, like you, Carole, live in a really hilly part of the world. And essentially, wherever I go, in any direction, I hit hills. And it's been amazingly interesting to me to discover what hills feel like on a bike. And you could certainly feel them. So hopefully I'm going to be able to allocate more hours. I'm probably going to have to do it in the weekends, in the evenings, and luckily my family have, they're supporting me, giving me time out to do these kind of things. So yeah, what about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest challenges here, to be honest. It's trying to find the time to get the exercise in that's needed to accomplish this. And yeah, I similar to yourself. My long rides have been at the weekends, because I mean my longest to date was 120 kilometers, and that was what was that? It was nearly 6 hours, 6 hours out on the road. So it's a big chunk of the day taken to accomplish this. So similar to you, I've got a static bike, so I make sure the time spent on that as well. But whenever I can, I mean, my routine prior to the back injury was first thing in the morning I'd be out on the road bike. I'd every other day would get in at least an hour on the bike, and then come back, get into the office, do my work. Lunchtime or in the evening, I'd then get onto the static bike. The days that I hadn't gone onto the road, and clock some miles on the static bike, and then as that long week at the weekend get the long ride in. So there's a nice routine falling in place. But of course, I'm not other than that one long ride a week. I wasn't getting, or I'm not getting kind of huge, great big rides in. But it's about building up that endurance level and continually working to get to a point where we feel we can spend 8, 9, 10, 11 hours in the saddle when we get to get on the road.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's a whole ecosystem that if you're a cyclist, it'll be second nature to you, but there's massive networks of people doing bicycle related things and putting bicycle related content out. And so Dan and I have been sharing the Global Cycling Network's videos, and it's basically a YouTube channel where they instruct you and they pretend like you're going up a hill, and they've actually put people on bikes with GoPros, and you follow the video and it tells you to crank up the difficulty level on your exercise bike for this many minutes, and then you wind it down again, and it's amazing. There's a real subculture of bicycling stuff that I didn't know anything about.
If anybody's interested in getting involved in a bit of exercise with a static bike, the GCN network, the Global Cycling Network, is an incredible place to start. They've just got so much content around this.
Yeah.
And, just think
cool.
those GoPros on the bikes, that'll be us when we're out cycling across Europe.
Yeah, that's it. That raises a question, actually. Let's move on to that. The sort of technology and the infrastructure involved. First of all, it's 30 days, and obviously 30 days, the hope very much is that we never spend the same night when we're actually on riding days in the same place. Otherwise, something has gone calamitously wrong. So where are we sleeping? Where are we going to rest our heads at the end of these horrifically long days?
Well, this entire project is a huge logistical concern. There's a lot involved in this, and obviously Carole's been doing an amazing job around the route so far, and obviously there's a lot more to do as we go forward. And the intention is for us to be sleeping in RVs, sleeping in camp vans as we travel across Europe. Our rest days, with any luck, depending on funding, we'll see us in slightly better accommodation in terms of maybe a hotel as opposed to an RV. But of course, this all comes down to funding. But a big issue around all of this is safety, and it's at the forefront of every conversation that we're having. We need to ensure that we can move this body of people across Europe in the most safe way, in the most safe and appropriate way, because we want to make sure that every person that starts out at Berlin ends up in Porto maybe a little bit more tired, but definitely in one piece. We need to make sure that there is no so obviously around the route planning, obviously that's been a big concern, making sure that we're not on major roads, we're not putting ourselves in any unnecessary danger at all. So of course it then requires support vehicles to be with us. So all of this then obviously leads into cost, and there is quite a substantial need in terms of finances to support this. But of course it is raising a very important issue within our space around the need for better physical health.
Yeah. And in terms of like bikes and all of that kind of stuff, the actual minutiae, each person that, so Carole is obviously going to be on an e-bike. You and I are going to be on a suitably selected and hopefully fitted, because that's another thing I didn't realise you could do. You can have a bike kind of, well, it's not bespoke, but they'll adjust everything so that it's in exactly the right position and fitted bike. Would that be the same for people that came along? Is there an expectation that if somebody wished to join us, that they would, bring their own cycling equipment, bike, helmet, etc.?
Yes, yeah. So we're setting up multiple options for individuals to join us, and that varies from riding a single day with us right through to joining the full 30 days. So it really depends on how that individual is joining us, whether it's a single day, whether it's multiple days, as to what level they need to have undertaken in terms of readiness. And obviously, we'd highly recommend a bike fit for anybody that's getting involved in this project, because it is important that we make sure that our bodies are suited, and the machines that we're using to accomplish this aren't causing any additional wear and tear or problems to our bodies, particularly, certainly if we're doing the 30 days, then yes, a bike fit is absolutely necessary. But again, we can discuss that and go through that process and support individuals on and how to take that forward and how to accomplish that.
What will happen to WP and Up, the main WP and Up, when you, I, Carole, and so on are on the bike ride? Because it's basically a whole month. Is your life as well, not just WP and Up, but is your business taking a bit of a pause? Carole, are you taking a complete month out, or are you expecting to do things in the evening, like log on and some way do other work?
So for me, it's going to be quite easy. So I am working on projects at the moment. So this is one of the projects I'm working on. And as I decided already earlier this year to go more slowly, like to have some kind of sabbatical, I am going to finish the projects that I am working on. And then from mid-March on, I will just focus on Hat 2, like from the work part, but also from the preparing myself part. So this is easy for me to do. Because I took some other decisions in my life beforehand that make me also have the resources, but I am also aware that this is not the case for everybody out there. But I took some decisions, like I would say, like starting 5 years ago, which would always put my own health in the first place. That's how I want to keep it. So that's what I'm doing.
What about you, Dan? Are you taking time completely off, or have you? Well, I just to give it some context, I've already lined somebody up to take over various aspects of my work whilst I'm away. I mean, in my case, I've told clients that I'm not going to be doing any new work during that time, and people that are capable are going to take over things like my website care plans and things like that.
Yeah, similarly, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've got a team that can take on a lot of the work that we have in the pipeline. So that's from the agency's perspective. Obviously, that will continue. From WP and Up's perspective, we're very fortunate in that the team has grown into a global team now. We've got people that are supporting us in many different ways. So work will continue. Everything will continue as is without us in the office, so to speak. Obviously, whilst we're on the road, we'll be sharing about obviously a lot of what we're doing whilst we're on the road. Obviously, there'll be a lot of media exposure across all that we're doing coming from us. We plan to have a documentary team with us. So we will be live streaming, so there'll be a lot of stuff coming out from WP and Up through the work that we're doing. But of course, the support, the companionship, the mentorship that's being delivered by WP and Up will continue as well. There's a fantastic team that will be supporting us from their offices wherever they are globally.
The route itself, it's quite gentle to begin with, isn't it? When we go through the Netherlands, which is famously flat, we're going to have quite a nice time, and so we're going to try and clock up lots of hours and lots of miles. And as we go through France, it turns out that the majority of the French portion of the journey is also quite flat. So the first 2/3 look on, well, actually I should say there's a gem of a thing in the Komoot app where it shows you the elevation as you go along, and basically for the first 2/3 of the journey it kind of rises and falls a little bit, and it goes up 100 meters here and 200 meters there, which is not so bad. And then we hit the Pyrenees, and then it all gets really interesting. Just sharing anxieties and things about that really genuinely makes me nervous. Obviously I'm going to try to be fit and healthy for that. What about you guys? Does any of this sort of stuff actually keep you awake at night, or are you thinking, I really hope that I'm up to this?
Yeah. Yeah, this this is gonna be a challenge, to be honest. Like, I am not sure about how we can actually do this, but we will try, right? And in worst case, it's gonna be like some parts of walking involved with the bike.
Yep.
So I mean, we can only try as hard as we can to prepare, and there is no, and unless we want to fly to the Pyrenees beforehand to give this a test, right? There is no other way than finding out.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a solution. So again, I am very happy I'm going to be on my e-bike. But I will need some more batteries for that. So that's for sure.
Yeah, you'll have to have an RV full of batteries so you can swap out as you go along. Dan, time for the truth. Come on.
Anybody that knows me knows I love a challenge.
Good for you.
But this is slightly on another level. It does. There are concerns, of course. In terms of the physical challenge, the personal physical challenge, I'm looking forward to it. I do like to have something to work towards, to aim towards. But I'm not going to lie. There are definitely concerns around it. When we look at some of those elevations and we see 17-18% inclines. I think at one stage we had a period of 198 kilometers of continuous uphill.
That's so easy to laugh about now.
Yes, yeah. So obviously, Carole, as we said, has done some fantastic work on the route, and we've been able to reduce some of those distances, some of the lengths that we're going uphill. Yeah. But there are still we can't get it around the fact that we've got to cross the Pyrenees. Yeah. I think our shortest day is around 87 kilometers. Yeah. Which is the big one as we hit the Pyrenees. I think our longest day is around 187 kilometers. I think that might even be our second day, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it is the second day. It's the kind of distance that you pack up a car for. You don't just sort of nip 187 kilometers for a few hours. It's a long way, and we'll be doing this day after day. What are the dates that we're doing it? People might be interested in put the things like this in their calendar and keep track on it.
Sure. So we're aiming to arrive at WordCamp Europe 2020 for the Contributor Day. So we're setting off. We're actually going to be attending the WordCamp retreat prior to this event. So we actually start off with a couple of days of rest and relaxation, shall we say, prior to kicking off. The retreat is the 30th of April.
Exactly.
Yes. So we go 30th of April, and off the back of that, we then head over to Berlin and start our journey. I think at the moment we are looking at the 4th of May to start the journey from the Estrel in Berlin.
Yeah.
May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you. That's great. In terms of sort of hammering home the message, this isn't about us getting on bikes and having we're not just doing this for the sake of having a nice trip across the Pyrenees and what have you. We've illustrated that it's going to be difficult. We've illustrated that we're taking it seriously and doing a bit of preparation and getting ourselves prepared. But the bottom line, the purpose in the end is two-pronged. It's to raise awareness about the charity's work, but also to engage the people around the charity to donate some money to assist WP and Op's work with finance. So this episode is going out significantly before we'll get anywhere near that bike ride, but the work of WP and Op is already underway. So Dan, I'd like you to spend a moment giving us all the details of how we can assist WP and Op, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. As you mentioned, I mean, we're touching on an incredibly important topic here. Mental health within the WordPress community, it does need better support. We put a survey out to the community early part of 2019, And the results of that were alarming. We actually saw twice the international average in terms of individuals suffering with suicidal thoughts within our community, which it shows it has a big concern. Obviously, we need to do something to tackle this. 1 in 2 that responded stated that they did feel they needed support from their mental health, or better support from the mental health perspective. So WPN Up is trying to tackle that. We're trying to deliver professional mental health support. We're trying to raise awareness and increase the opportunity for people to engage with some form of support from a mental health perspective. So, of course, we are supporting the WordPress community. That is a global community. So this isn't a small undertaking, and of course, it comes at a cost, a physical, very real monetary cost. So we do need to work with our community from a financial perspective to enable this to happen, and we want to work with companies within our space. Companies that benefit from having a healthy, vibrant community, as well as obviously individuals. If they have the ability, the opportunity to support us, then we're very, very grateful. There are many ways that people can do that. If individuals or companies are looking to donate into WPN Up, then visiting wpandup.org/donate is an option. We have the ability to take recurring monthly donations or single one-off donations. We're also, as I mentioned, looking to partner with businesses within our space, both within and without our space. If you're interested in knowing more about how to partner with WPN Up, how we can create exposure across all of the activities, then do get in touch with us. You can get in touch with our partnerships team. If you can send an email to partners@wpnup.org. And then the team can get in contact and give you more information. Or alternatively, wpnup.org/partnerships is another route. We really want to make sure that across all of this, we're working with businesses in our space and as I say, creating exposure of companies that are willing to support positive mental health within our space.
It may not be something that you yourself have had a need for. It may be something that you may avoid for the whole of your life, but it may be something that you maybe work with somebody who would have a need for WPN Up. And that's the flip side as well. It's not just about asking for donations. It's also about letting you guys know that this support is available, and you can go to the wpnup.org website should you need that help. But as Dan says, you know how this works. Charities are free at the point of access, but they can't run on no finance. So if anything that we've talked about today has rung any bells, then please head over to wpnup.org/donate. Right, I think at 52 minutes we've probably talked enough about cycling. If you're there at WordCamp Europe, come and look for us. We'll be the 3 people on the ground, panting, praying for some R&R. Carole, thanks for joining us, and Dan, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for having us.
My goodness me, what have we got ourselves into? I really hope that you enjoyed that. It is quite a large project. Maybe you got some sense of the scale of it, all of the bits and pieces that have to fit together, the many cogs in the wheel, if you like, all of the bikes that need to be purchased, all of the accommodation that needs to be thought through, all of the sponsorship and so on and so forth. It's quite a big undertaking, but obviously we're doing it for a good reason. And if you go to the show notes, there's a link in there that you can click on if you would like to donate to the project and make it happen. Obviously, WPN Up do need support. That stuff cannot be done for free. And so heading over there and making a donation, however large or small, will make a difference and will keep things ticking over. And I think it's a worthwhile cause. Anyway, thanks for listening to this week's podcast. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you by WPN Up. 1 in 4 of us will be directly affected by mental health related illness. WPN Up supports and promotes positive mental health within the WordPress community. This is achieved through mentorship, events, training and counselling. Please help enable WPN Up by visiting wpnup.org/give. Okay, please join us next Thursday for the podcast, and also join us on Monday when we'll have our weekly news. Comes out very early in the morning. And of course, we'll have our live version, 2 p.m. UK time, wpbuilds.com/live. And please remember to go and bookmark wpbuilds.com/black, because I will be making that page constantly updated with all of the latest deals. There's loads on there already, all around Halloween. Lots of them will be coming, though, in the weeks running up to Black Friday. Okay, that is it for now. All that remains for me to do is to fade in some really dreadfully cheesy music this week and say bye-bye for now.